Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Matt. I am your host, Matt Taylor. Today I'm going to show you how to make a Star Wars themed cake, more specifically a Stormtrooper cake. Pretty easy to do. If I can do it, you can do it. Before I move on, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my new videos. Let's get started. Down below in the description box, you'll find a list of the ingredients and their amounts. To begin, bake a cake, and you can use any recipe that you want. I have several cake recipes here on my channel that you can use, and I'm just doing a basic chocolate cake, and I used a 12-inch round because I want it to be a little bit bigger, but you could use whatever size of cake that you have. And then you're going to want to print out some kind of a Stormtrooper helmet head, and you can find these online real easy. And I'm just doing this style, but there's different styles of Stormtrooper heads that you can do. And so I just picked this one. And then we're going to use some fondant. I have black fondant and white fondant, and I really like this because there's only two colors that we have to deal with. And this might seem a little complicated, but it's really pretty easy. And the steps that I'm going to be using are very similar, or pretty much the same as I used with my Spider-Man cake, my Curious George cake, and my Detective Pikachu cake. Same kind of steps, same strategy that we're going to tackle this. So what I did is I baked the cake and then let it cool completely in the pan here. And I'm just going to take this out. And I used a piece of parchment paper on the bottom. I just didn't want it to stick. We'll remove that. And then I'm going to just put it right down here on my cutting board because I want to trim it. And so what we'll do is we'll take our stencil here. And I'm going to start by cutting around this. Okay. And then we have that ready to go, just like that. See that? And now we want to trim around the edges of this. So just put one hand on it. Make sure it's lined up completely. I'm going to line this up so the top of the head doesn't need to be trimmed. I'll just use that circle bit of the cake. And then I'm just going to come in here and just trim around my knife here. And then we'll just take away these pieces of cake, and then you can save these pieces of cake and make cake pops or cake sickles with them. I have 2 videos on how to do each of those here on my channel. So that is our main design. That is the main outline. And now what we're going to do is we want to put this on the cake board if you are using a cake board. And they have rectangle cake boards or this round one. Sometimes I'll cover it with foil, other times I'll just leave it like this. And then I'm going to take a little bit of frosting. You can use homemade or just store-bought frosting. I have a recipe for a nice buttercream frosting. I'm just going to put a little dollop of frosting right there in the middle. And this will act as glue to hold this cake in place. So we'll just lift this guy up here. And put it right down there in the middle. And then if you need to come in and just trim it up a little bit more, that's okay. And you don't need to be too crazy with it because the frosting and the fondant is going to cover most of your mistakes up as well. Even if the cake cracks or even falls apart on you, like in the middle, you can just push it together and no one's ever gonna know. Now, let's go ahead and frost this. I'm just using a little cake spatula here. And you just want to do a bit of frosting all over. It doesn't have to be a thick amount of frosting. And this will act as glue for the fondant. Okay, there we go. And then now you can come in with some paper towel and just clean up those edges. I want to set this aside for now. And then we want to roll out the fondant. So I have a thing of white fondant here, and this is just the Wilton brand. You could use whatever brand of fondant that you want. I also have a homemade marshmallow fondant recipe that you can use that too if you want to make your own fondant. I'll put a link down below where you can find it. Also up there in the eye, in the corner up there, you can find that video as well. So I'll just open up this bag. And for this, we'll probably need most of this. So I'm just going to take off a little bit and leave that for now. I don't think I'll need that much. And then you're just going to want to knead this fondant in your hand so it gets nice and soft. Make sure your hands are clean. Okay, and when you're done kneading, what I did is I laid down my silicone mats just because my counter is a little bit sticky with fondant. And then I want to roll this into a big circle or rectangle that's bigger than my cake, at least by a couple inches. You want to roll the fondant about 1/8 of an inch thick. All right, and then you can just take your stencil here and just put it over like this to give it a test. And it looks like that'll be enough to go down the edges. And then once you are done, what you can do is you can just roll this back up like this onto itself. And grab our cake. And roll it back down, and you don't have to use that rolling technique. And now what you want to do is you want to come in with clean hands, or there's a tool called a fondant smoother, and you want to just start tucking this in. And if you remember, there's like the little ears right here, so you want to kind of make those kind of see where those are. And just kind of make a little indentation there. And just start tucking and smoothing as best as you can. And then when you have the bulk of it all done, we'll come in here with another knife and we'll just trim the bottom away. And then come back in with a piece of paper towel and just clean the base up as needed. All right, so the head is taking shape. That is the main part of the head. You can put the stencil back down and just take a look. And if you want to do a little bit more details and shape it around a little bit, you can come in here with your hands and just shape it and curve it a little bit more if you want. Pretty awesome. Okay, and now we want to do the details, laying out the face. And for that, we need the black fondant. So again, I'll set this aside, and I'll take some black fondant here. And we're going to need several pieces out of this. And how we decide which pieces we're going to need is what we'll do is we will cut out the inner black. Don't worry about the outside black because that's just the outline to show the stencil. What I'm going to do is I want this band, this very popular band. So I'm going to cut this out. And that piece can go right up there. And cut out this white black piece. And we actually want it to be a little longer than this because we want it to go down the sides of the helmet as well. And then I want to cut out the eyeballs. So cut out both eyeballs and then cut out this part in the middle and then these parts. So I'm going to come back when I have stuff cut out and we will go from there. And now I have everything pretty much cut out that I want. these little lines on the sides, it's just gonna be too hard to cut that stuff out. And so I'm just gonna roll little pieces and put those on, okay? And then the rest of these lines are just to show a bit of contouring, just to make it so it doesn't look so flat, the image. And so here we go. I'm gonna get this piece out. And so I'm gonna cut a little bit past it, just so it's a little bit longer. And this stuff doesn't have to be totally exact. Just do the best that you can with it, okay? And so that is the part that goes around the helmet. And it goes down the sides, not all the way, just a little bit. And now what we can do, come back over here to our cake. White cake against a white countertop. So hopefully you'll be able to see all this. And so here we go. I got that on there. And so I know the visor or the black part goes right here. And so I have a little brush, just a clean little paint brush and a little bit of water. Just dip that in there. Then I want to brush that on some water. And the water acts like glue for the fondant. I want to go down the sides a little bit too. And there we go. That is the top part of the helmet. Pretty awesome, huh? Cool. And then I want to cut out the rest of my little black parts that I need. So this goes down right here. So I want the eyes. These are the eye parts. And so I can get these right out of here probably. And if you need to curve it a little bit with your fingers, you can. Cool. Now I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. Pun intended, it actually is covered in sugar. But cake design, this type of cake design is very tedious. It's not necessarily hard, but it is tedious and takes time. And so now I have the guides of where these eyes are gonna go. Then I can remove this and just put these there. And a lot of times it'll stick by itself with fondant, but again, if it doesn't, just come in here, a bit of water. All right, have the eyes down. And I want to put down this piece right here. So this one right here, and then I want to put little pieces of white fondant on top of it. And it's totally fine if you get like little scratches and things in the fondant, because that'll give it character. It'll make it look like the helmet's been worn and used. So don't worry about that too much. So then you just keep putting your guide on, taking it off, putting it on. I can do these little circles, and I'm just going to use the back of one of these piping tips. Just come in here and go down. And just take those out, and I got these nice little circles here. Next, I want to do this piece right here. Kind of this mouthpiece right there that goes right here. And I can get this right out of here. And this little piece goes right there. Yeah, awesome. And so we are getting really close. This is finally getting really close to being done. Looks really, really cool. And now we want to put these little, you could leave the black like that if you want, or you can try to put these little white squares on there. If you wanted to, we can take a little bit of white fondant and try to do some of this detail. It's a little tricky of a detail. And this detail, I'm just going to eyeball. So, there we go. Pretty cool. That's a nice little detail. It mimics the detail on this. And now we want to do these cheeks. And just roll out a bunch of these little guys and put them on the cheeks to get that detail in there. About like that is probably good. And then we can just snip a bunch of these little pieces. And then roll them a little bit. And then they are going to go right up along this cheek. And I might just do 4 of them. It still gives you the basic idea. The original has a bunch more, but I'm just going to do 4 of them on that side and 4 on this side, I think. And there we go. All right, the Star Wars Stormtrooper cake is done and turned out fantastic. Pretty easy to do, a little tedious and requires some patience, but if I can do it, you can do it. I'm Matt Taylor. This has been another episode of In the Kitchen with Matt. Thank you for joining me. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or requests, put them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thumbs up, down the corner, push it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos. Take care. Now normally I would dive into this, but I want to keep this intact and I'm going to surprise my friends and their family with it.